is that quick?
Second.
Probably not.
Afternoon.
Right. What's going on here?
Whose is that?
No idea.
Is that yours?
Well, our usual
The
video
mic
guys,
stand.
Usual video guys, and with us. It's called improvisation. You can adopt that in your coaching. Thinking on your feet.
Yeah.
Right, there's no your cameras are ready.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All good. Paddy.
Yeah, nice to see you. Thanks as always for your time. Fitness-wise, probably a good place as any. Jose Cordoba, how are we looking for this weekend? Trained all week?
Yeah, trained all week, so it's looking good.
Liam Gibbs, I think he posted something on his socials there. He had to go down the surgery route midweek. Are we still looking at the same timeline?
Yeah, I think 8 to 10 weeks is what we can expect here. So yeah, but everything went fine, and he's taking the situation into consideration in a good place.
In terms of one or two of the others we haven't asked you about, who are maybe longer term. So, Josh Sargent, where are we with him? In terms of his update?
Oh yeah, he's doing well, and again surgery went fine, and he's actually really well. I think, to be realistic, it's going to be the new year. I think very, very optimistic. Maybe one of the last games in this year, but I think that's the very optimistic version.
And again, is that like Nunes, for example? Is that no risk element now with him? It's too important a player to lose him for the second part of the season.
Yeah, it is. Of course, it will be fantastic for us to have him available for some of these games between Christmas and New Year's. That would be fantastic for us. But I think it's too optimistic, and I think we have to look at the scale of injury and what type of injury it was, and also going through surgery and so on. So, but he's responding well, and he's in a good mood, and he was out there actually doing a little bit of running out there today. So it looks okay, but again we have to be cautious here.
With Nacho, obviously you managed to get him back on the park there towards the end last Saturday. Still a bit too early, maybe, in terms of starting lineups, do you think?
I don't think so. I think there's many ways to deal with this, because it's another one of them where we have to do a puzzle because it's 3 games within 7-8 days. So we have to look at those 3 games and see, okay, a team for Saturday, and how can it look on Tuesday, and if he plays full time here, if is that good on for a match on Tuesday again, or can we do it differently or whatever. So it is up for some decisions for us to take, and also is dependent on some of the other players. Who do we have available for that particular game, and so on. So we make sure that we are as strong as possible for every game that we play in terms of the team that we put on. So I think it's realistic that he can start.
Just a step back, I mean, listening to you there, sounds like you've had a bit of what I've had, struggling a little bit with the flu.
Yeah, I've had some quite tough days. Yeah, so yeah.
Are you fit for Saturday?
I am. It actually started the night before the Luton game. I was really struggling in the Luton game, and the ones that know me know that I'm normally always cold and always wearing as many jackets and layers as possible. And for that game, I actually have to unzip my jacket because I was feeling so hot. So it started there, and it's been a tough week, but I'm back.
On a serious note, I mean, there was no Jack Wilshere. I take it he's all right this week, is he?
He's also all right, but it's also been a hard one for him, and I think he was out a couple of days also before the Luton game, then came back, and then had some more days off, but he's also finally back, so we're starting to get there.
On a serious note, in terms of the players, I mean, if you had to keep that away from the players, because that's very difficult to do this time.
Yeah, we have tried as good as possible. We can see some they struggle a little bit, and we have some illness within the group, and we have to be careful. So we try to do, all that we can. The team meetings, can we do that a little bit different? Can we make a little bit more distance between each other and so on? Because it is something where if if we're not careful here, then out of a sudden it can spread to a whole team, and then we have a really not good situation. So it is something that's been on our minds for the last couple of weeks.
Does that bleed into? I mean, we're obviously sat here on Thursday afternoon. Is there any issues maybe for Saturday in terms of team selection?
There can be. I would say most of the players look all right. Some of them are at a stage now where they can train and they can be out there, but then of course we send them home to rest. Hopefully that will be a little bit better before Saturday, but I think most of them are fine, yeah.
I think there's a game down Carrow Road tonight, isn't there? The PSV game in the International Cup. Maybe not if that is the situation, you've got one or two you're just monitoring, but is that an opportunity to give some of your fringe younger players?
Yeah, we will. There will be a handful of players from the first team group that will be in and around that game, and then some of them will be restricted on game minutes because they have to be ready for training tomorrow and then the game on Saturday, but there will be a handful involved in that one.
And you kind of did something similar in the wasn't the Norwich game, it was the first game, was it Sparta Prague?
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel that's a good level in terms of maybe with greatest respect to step up from the Premier League 2 level?
Yeah, what I saw against Sparta, unfortunately I was not in the city when Norwich was here to watch that one. But what I saw in that one was that the intensity was high, the tactical level was good. So it was, in my opinion, a high quality youth game, and that's really, really valuable for the players to have minutes in that. So especially the guys where they need some minutes, both to be fit, but also to see if they can push towards, being closer to the squad and the team. It's really, really worth for them to have some minutes. So that's the reason and thoughts behind it.
Just interested because the club announced a new contract for Uri Jeji earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And you've obviously got one or two younger players out and about on loan. Adebayor, have you been monitoring him at all? I know I appreciate you've got your focuses here and the players you're working with here, but looks from a distance as if he's really grasped it, playing a lot of minutes, a lot of starts for Dundee United. Yeah,
we are, and again, we have a department taking care of the players that are out on loan and make sure that we communicate with them and they can get feedback from us as well. And they can. I had a good talk with Manny, as we call him, before he left, about what was important for him, and it is something where it was important for him to have a full season of game time and to go into a team becoming a regular starter for that team, and then also not for us to see if we could, we should not interrupt too much with that, and he should be able to play. So it's not in our thoughts to call him back or anything like that, but we appreciate that he's doing well, and it's not just of course there's a couple of teams in that league that are a little bit better than the others, but it's not an easy league to go to, just to also to get in the starting lineup and so on. So I think he's doing well.
And as you say, it probably isn't going to do him any good, is it? Even though he's doing well, to bring him back in amongst the group, and then maybe he doesn't get the minutes.
Yeah.
He's getting there in the first half.
It's not important for us, and it's the same with some of the other young ones, where it's an ongoing talk for us with them. What's the best for them? Is it the best for them to be in the training environment, or is it better for them to go out on loan and play every Saturday? I think it's like we've talked about a couple of times before. It's so individual, and those conversations are important for us to have as much as possible. We agreed on with Manny that it was important for him to go out on loan, play regular minutes, and hopefully Saturday after Saturday. And I'm just pleased to see that that's what's happening at the moment.
I appreciate now we're probably going to veer into a little bit of Ben and Neil's territory, but you've got some senior players who potentially from January onwards maybe contractually can talk to other clubs. Is there anything moving on those areas? Like Gunny, Hanley, Barnes? Yeah,
I think there is, and I think there will definitely also be some kind of official statement for us when we are ready to do it. It's again just like all the other talks, it's individual. So for one player and for club it can be, a certain kind of a contract. For another player it can be another one, and for a third one it can be a third solution. So that's how we look at it. We try to plan the team. Just of course we know we have to do something in the window that opens up now. But the planning for the team is we have to plan a couple of windows ahead, and we have to make sure that how will the team look in one season's time when we are here next year. So that's how we try to do it. But it of course requires talks with also some of the senior players.
And would there be clarity at this stage now? We're getting into a point where I'm sure they want the clarity from the players' side and the player representatives. Are the club able to give them that clarity without obviously putting it out into the public domain, maybe where you want?
Yeah, but it is, which is a part of this where we can have a club opinion, and then there can be a player with another opinion and an agent with a third opinion, and then we have to find some kind of agreement within that, and that's the case in all kind of negotiations, whether it's young players or senior players or whatever, coaches for instance. So yeah, it's again it's so individual, but it's I think we are getting along quite well, and we have these conversations.
And underpinning it maybe from the club's point of view, you talked about the footballing dimension to what this team and squad look like beyond this season, but there's obviously a financial consideration. You're still out of the Premier League. We know the revenue comparative to the Championship is vastly different. That also has to be part of this, doesn't it? The financial element of it.
Yeah, it is, and that's also why we started this season with a little bit different strategy, a little bit different approach towards the transfer market, and of course also the financial situation where we can see that from where we are now and without the parachute money, we need to create something different to what we've been used to in this club, and that was particularly bringing younger players in, which just could add value to the team for now, but especially for the future, both in terms of performance on pitch, but also of course in terms of transfers in the future. So that's one big part of it. We cannot build a team only with young players, and we need some experienced players as well. So it's about finding that balance and finding the right players for the right time and so on. But it is a big part of our strategy that we look at this, and we look at hopefully we can create an even better financial situation in the future for us by starting with this strategy. But it is something we need to stick to, and we need to be very, very consistent with everything we do, and every decision that we take should be leading towards the strategy.
One more if I can, and move off this topic, because I asked you about the Fashion Act. He's not made the last two squads now. I think there was a report maybe his previous club in Switzerland might be having a look at it. Is that again moving to a position where maybe you'll have a look at it in January, and if it suits all parties, maybe that's one that could happen?
I will always be careful about talking about these player, not issues, but talks, conversations here, because I think Fassi is a player for us, and he will be as long as he's on a contract here. Why he's not been in the team the last couple of games is because we've selected other players to be ready for the games, and what I can do is that I make sure that the guys that I put on, they're ready to win the game, and the guys who are on the bench should be ready to win the game as well, and that's the only thing I can do leading up to a game, and hopefully, or luckily and fortunately, we have more than just 18-20 players available, and we have competition for every position, and that's how it is. So it's a decision that I've taken.
And talking of that competition, there's a lot of Norwich fans that get very excited in terms of your central midfield areas and trying to perm maybe 4 or 5 very good options into 3, but you're the one who actually has to narrow that down. How big a dilemma is that for you now? Now you've got Nacho, you've got Kenny, Oscar.
It's the best possible dilemma to have as a football coach, and I can tell you, when we sat here 4 weeks ago and there was no players available and they were either out with injuries or suspensions or whatever, that's the worst dilemma to be in as a football coach, because you have to come up with something that's you maybe haven't trained or something that you don't do out there every day. But now with the players available, it's all about competition. It's about who will perform best way in training, in games, and of course also looking at where they are in the group. A guy like Kenny is the captain for us when he plays, so of course he will be in there. But then how do we shape the team around him? Who's the best players playing close to him? And that's a great dilemma to be in as a coach, and it also means that every time we train the players, they have to do their best and make sure that they compete on the highest possible level. So it's a fantastic position to be in.
I mean, that's, as you say, interesting that it's almost is game by game, but would you as a coach, I guess what you'd want is maybe what you had prior to that international sort of period, where you had McLean, you had Nunes and Slimani, and they really seemed to be on a real good wavelength, and they were driving the team forward. I guess if you could find 3 who are performing consistently week in and week out, then it's theirs to lose the shirt almost.
Yeah.
Is that how you're looking?
I would say because, of course, what we also saw is that then Emiliano came into the group and he took that 10 position and have really done well the last couple of games. So every time someone is out, then it opens up for opportunities for another player to step in and you know, show what he can do. And I think some of the guys they managed to do that, even though it was a tough period for us. And of course, we have to see that out there in training. But the positive side is that it also opens up for us being competitive, hopefully over a 3-game week here. So, of course, what we have to do for now is to look at the game on Saturday and make sure that we put on the strongest possible team. But we can also think just a little bit about Tuesday night, and we have other options for that. And we have maybe, if a player is not starting on Saturday, it can be that he will be starting on Tuesday and then start that game with fresh legs and fresh mind and so on. So it's I would struggle to see it as a negative thing. There is competition, and that's completely how it's supposed to be. And I hope also the players they enjoy it.
Talking of Saturday's game, QPR, I mean, a couple of Danes I think in their squad. So I mean, what do you make of them though? Because you look at the table and you think, well, they're having a struggle, but out of the 18 games they've drawn 9. It's not like they're losing a lot. No,
and that's just a picture of the league. That's how it is. Where, especially at home, most teams they pick up results at home. QPR can do the same. I know that just one of their recent wins was away. So I think it's a team where they started the season being a little bit more, trying at least to be a little bit more dominant in the games, and then maybe a little bit similar to what we discussed with Plymouth. They lost out on some results, maybe also some key players in the team, and needed to be a little bit more pragmatic in their approach to the game. And I think that's what we see at the moment. Even though I think there's some good moments. I think I just watched yesterday the game they played against Watford, where I think also towards the end of the game that they could easily have taken the 3 points in that one. They had some big chances towards the end. So I think it's like, yeah, actually one of all the other games in the championship. If we are not there, if we don't show up and put a performance that is up to our best, then we cannot expect to travel home again from that one with points. So we have to put in another good performance. So I keep on reminding the players, it's so much about us, it's so much about how we perform, it's so much about the rhythm that we are in. We find the good positions, we find the good moments. Everything we do it with the highest possible quality. If it's a simple pass, then it should be a perfect pass. If it's running for each other or making crosses, it needs to be on the highest quality, because otherwise there's no easy games in this league, and yeah, we go away from a game like that without points.
I mean, touched on there, sort of the difference between away and home. I mean, maybe people will look at your side and feel there's a marked difference. You just look at the points, but do you think that probably doesn't scratch beneath, what's going on in terms of what you're trying to do away from home as opposed to carry?
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that more or less every team in the world, but especially us also, we feel even more safe at home. We know everything. We know the corner of every stadium. We know on the stadium. We know exactly the amount of steps from here to there and so on. That's just how it is. So we feel at home when we play at that stadium, and of course it will give us some extra support and some extra motivation during the way. But away from home, we try to play with the same approach, with the same attitude. We can see that in some of the games we've struggled a little bit. It is something different, but we try to get there. And I think in some of the recent away matches that we have played, I think we've been doing that quite okay. With all due respect to the opposition as well, because they are, of course, also they have their qualities as well. But I think what we try is that we want to be the same team going away from home. We want to be dominant. We want to take the ball and dominate the game, and we want to create as many offensive situations as possible. And then does it come with risk? Yeah, definitely it does. But can we do just a performance like we did in West Brom? Then I will be. Yeah, I'm quite optimistic on behalf of the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is, I mean, when you go away, is it almost it's the mindset? It's trying to get your team to impose their personality as they do at home, and it feels like it just comes really naturally to them. But just trying to do that away from them. And is that maybe with a young group of players something that's just part of the evolution? Yeah,
it is. It is, and the most difficult thing to train into a football team and also get the experience into a football team is the consistency. And everyone now can see that when we play up to our standards and when we play with high quality. We really have high quality, but everyone can also see that when we drop in that quality level, we just become average, and we are too easy to score goals against and create chances against, and we're not fluent enough offensively, and our rhythm is maybe not there. So it's so much about us, but a difficult thing in football is to go away with all that travel, with all that, just going away from home, sleeping in another bed than you're used to, different environment, and so on. It is something that requires some experience, and you have to do it over and over and over and over again to find your routine and find what really works best for you. For some it takes time, for some it goes fast, and we are still there in between where we have to learn a little bit, and some of the more experienced players have to teach some of the younger players how to deal with it and what to do. And then of course also the atmosphere. When you go to a stadium where there is 25,000 and most of them they don't support you, that's of course also a difference.
Yeah, on that final point, my mind goes back to Cardiff, where for a lot of that game, you were the better team, no doubt about it. You controlled a large part of the game, and then it's like the wheels came off towards the end, and then the crowd really got into it, and then it's difficult, and your backs are against the wall, and it's those moments, isn't it? Just navigating those moments of adversity. It
is, and we are learning as a team, and also as coaching staff. It's still the worst 5 minutes we've had so far this season. Those last 5 minutes in Cardiff. Because we did so well up until then, but it is especially these moments where you have to deal with it as a team, but you only find solutions when you try it. And it was the same in Derby when they scored that 1-1 goal just straight after halftime, after a couple of corner kick situations, and the crowd was really going. That's where you need a response from your best players out there, and we did that in Derby. Did manage to do that in Cardiff, so I hope we can do it in QPR on Saturday, because there will be difficult moments. Thank you.
Thanks, Paddy. Could have the cameras off at the back, please. Phil, do you want to jump up here?
Yeah.